The thoughts we feed our brain affect our physical, mental, and psychological health. So, is it possible for thought alone to reshape the brain in a tangible, real, physical way? And can the brain scientifically distinguish between reality and imagination? Most people believe that what distinguishes humans from animals is intelligence. However, history is filled with examples where human intelligence was used in corruption, destruction, and mass murder. The brain is an instrument. It does not deserve to lead, for like any instrument, it can be used for good or evil. It can create or destroy, reform or corrupt. The brain's usefulness is dependent on how it is led by our conscience. Only through awareness, by managing the mind's external and internal inputs, can one preside over his mind and guide it towards sound judgment. External nourishment is what we feed our brains through what we see, what we read, and what we hear. Internal nourishment is what we feed ourselves through our continuous internal monologue, be it positive or negative. The mind is like fertile soil. What thoughts we sow in it, we will reap in our actions. Good nourishment begins with selecting what we read and how we interpret it. This is why the first verse and the first command in the Quran says, read. Reading in the most comprehensive form, reading history, nature, and mankind. In her book, Proust and the Squid, Dr. Mary Ann Wolfe illustrates the profound influence of reading on human history and genetic improvement. She explores how reading has affected our way of thinking and also the way we work, reflect, and recall. Modern brain imaging techniques reveal that thousands of cells begin to work in the brain within seconds after one starts reading a book. Some of these cells are reactive, responding to the activity, while others are newly formed and will change the brain for the rest of our lives. All of this activity is brought on by simply opening a book to read. During reading, the brain perceives images as a living reality because both imagination and reality activate the very same areas in the brain. Therefore, reading can provide you with the opportunity to live out events and experiences without actually encountering them in real life, ultimately influencing the way you think and feel about the world. Furthermore, during reading, we tend to interact and respond physiologically to the metaphoric descriptions of what we read. A study at Emory University examined the results of a functional MRI for a group of people who heard metaphorical expressions. For example, it was a rough day instead of it was a bad day. The study found that the area of the brain stimulated by the word rough was the same area responsible for sensing the difference between rough and smooth surfaces. This means that our brains do not differentiate what we read and imagine from what we experience in reality. A similar study at the same university found that the changes that took place in the brain remained after the experiment had ended. They even had the potential to completely reshape the brain. Most certainly, reading directly and actively affects personal morals depending on the books we read. Researchers at Carnegie Mellon University monitored the development of a child's brain during 100 hours of intense reading. They discovered that after reading, there was a significant increase in the white matter of the brain, the substance responsible for the brain's communication. Losing yourself in a book can alleviate the burdens of life and reduce mental stress. A study in 2009 at the University of Sussex indicated that half an hour of deep reading relieves stress by 68%. This is more effective than any other method of relaxation, including listening to soft music or watching an engaging program on television. As for feeding your brain internally, there are similar benefits. A study at the University of Pittsburgh monitored the health of 97,000 women for 8 years. Participants were classified as either optimists or pessimists. It was found that optimists enjoyed better health. They had a 9% lower risk of heart disease, a 14% lower death rate, better education, and even achieved higher income. In addition, a study by Segerstrom in 1998 proved that optimism has the ability to boost your immune system. In his book, The Brain That Changes Itself, the renowned author and psychologist Norman Deutsch states that the mind has the power to reorganize and even restructure itself. How? By producing new neurological synapses through repetitive activities. He adds that positive thinking and optimism change the brain in an actual physical way, not a metaphorical one. This state is known as neuroplasticity. In other words, our thoughts can change the structure, performance, and functions of the brain. To study how our positive mindset contributes to our health and wellness, researchers examined 84 housekeepers from 7 different hotels. These women were divided into 2 groups. The first group was told that their work was an excellent form of exercise, which fulfills the guidelines of a healthy, active life. The second group was not provided with any information and they were left as they were. Both groups were monitored for a period of 4 weeks. Despite the fact that neither group changed their work routine, the first group of informed housekeepers showed a reduction in weight and body fat, a 10% reduction in blood pressure, and an overall improvement in health. In other words, their positive mindset had a direct impact on their general well-being. God made positive thought a natural human quality. As children, we are born full of optimism and energy. We only learn pessimism through our relationship with our parents. Studies point out that 70 to 80% of our inner monologue bears a negative tone. By the time we reach the age of 18, we have already received up to 150,000 negative thoughts, as opposed to only 400 positive ones. Optimists develop an active mechanism for self-motivation, which awakens their selective perception. This is our capability to recognize opportunities and match them with our potential strength. In order to manage the wellness of the mind, it is imperative that we become aware of what we feed it, externally and internally. The relationship of awareness to the mind is like that of a farmer and his fertile land. What he sows, he reaps. The mind is a magnificent instrument for rational thinking and problem solving. The problem lies in our belief that our thoughts constitute who we are. The mind must remain a servant to our true self, our awareness, our consciousness, the Spirit of God within us.